Where do we find you at the moment?
I'm at home in Long Beach, California.
Jeez, well, that's certainly not the worst place to be. How are things at the moment? Obviously, a hectic couple of months over in California at the moment. You guys are all good, all safe?
Yeah, all the fires and stuff was further north, but I have friends and stuff affected, so my heart's with them. But personally, me, like my house is okay and all that. So
Well, that's good. We were actually just watching an interview in the lead up to this about how you were telling like a near death experience when you were going for a drive down to work at
When you're
bullshit o'clock in the
at
morning.
Borders, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That sounds
yeah,
pretty hectic in itself. I'm sure you've told the story enough and probably don't want to relive it, but it certainly did sound like some sort of experience.
yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, it was some kind of experience. It's I can't believe it's real. Like it didn't at the time. It didn't feel real, and it still doesn't feel real that I flipped my car. Um, I was driving. Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, you go for it, man.
Yeah, okay. All right. So yeah, I was driving to work. It was my second day. I worked at Borders Books. It's like a chain bookstore. And I was on the inventory team, so I had to be there before the store opened at like 5 a.m. So it was super early. And I slept in and I was rushing to work and I was driving super fast. And I had the idea of like, oh, I should put on some music. So I took off my seatbelt and I was like reaching down by the passenger side seat, like on the floor, just picking up like different burned CDs, trying to figure out something to put on.
Nice.
And yeah, I know, so stupid. I was like, no, that's not going to wake me up. No, this won't wake me up. But I found something to put on, and I looked up, and like the road had turned slightly, and I was driving way too fast, and I hit a curb and just like launched in midair and kind of did like a kickflip in my Ford Bronco with no seatbelt on and was just like fully upside down. Um, and it was all in super slow motion. So I was just thinking about like, oh shit, like this is where it all catches up to me and this is how I'm gonna die. Um, and I landed upside down in my car and the whole thing caved in and um yeah, it was super scary. I crawled out of my car and kind of assessed the situation. This lady came out and she was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And she's like, "Are you on drugs?" And I was like, "No, I'm not on drugs." And I was like, I was just going to work. And then I asked if I could use her phone, and she handed me this like white cordless phone. I called my mom, told her what happened, and I handed the phone back to her, and it was just like completely drenched in blood.
Gee.
Um, I didn't realize I was bleeding, and I felt so bad. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, this poor lady." And she, the cops came and they like, they saw I wasn't drunk or on drugs or anything, and they checked me for a concussion. I didn't have a concussion, and they just let me get my car towed away and go home.
That's
So
crazy.
I,
That's
I,
the
w-
best.
I know it's so crazy. No police report, nothing. Like this didn't even affect my insurance. It was insane. They just did me such a solid. They were like, this poor kid, like he's just an idiot. He's just a moron. So I went home, went to sleep, woke up, and then it just like it never happened. So yeah, but
Damn.
super super scary. Yeah.
Yeah, so that the Ford Bronco you were driving was that you a fan of those cars or was it just like a family heirloom that got passed down and like did you ever get it back or get another one again?
No, exactly. It was my dad had a friend that was getting rid of it. It had a bunch of problems. It was an old like 80s Bronco. It was super cool.
Oh, no
But
doubt. Yeah.
yeah, it was so I wish I had it now. It was awesome. I got it for free. My dad's friend just like was just yeah trying to get rid of it. And yeah, but that was the end of it. It was totaled. Like the whole top of it crunched in. Like I had to army crawl through the crunched wreckage of the
Yeah.
car to get out of it.
And to
Um,
think that after all of this, it's only the second most famous Bronco story in history.
right? Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
The low speed pursuit. Yeah.
Yeah. What about the metal zone that was in there? Did that survive? Like everybody needs to protect the metal zone at all costs. The most rugged guitar pedal of them all. Signature top one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Matt brings that up. He had let me borrow it. I don't know why. Like I don't even remember ever using it like
You
a
can
guitar
say
pedal,
you can
but
say you use a metal zone. It's not. It's fine. Everyone uses them. We all say it. Everyone takes the label off. It's fine.
no, I don't remember if he ever got it back. I think he never got it back, and I think he's a little bitter about it still. He's kind of like, it's a
Yeah.
bummer about your car, but like, where's my pedal,
That one had the
So
special sound.
I think it had sentimental. I think it might have been his like first pedal, and I
Yeah.
just left it in the middle of Narbonne Avenue.
That's how it starts for a lot of people with the metal zone. And I guess
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you also, just going right back to the start now, where everything started for you. Now I know that that kind of Joyce Manor started from I don't know if it was an impromptu trip to Disneyland, but allegedly there was some alcohol involved as well. Like, what's the deal with that? Was it just like just two bros hanging out, and then you thought, let's just? I mean, I've never been to Disneyland. I've never had that experience, but we have similar theme parks here to some degree, and I've never managed to
sure.
make the trip under any sort of influence. So how did that all go down?
Well, it's honestly way sketchier and depressing than you could even
Right.
imagine. So,
Yeah.
um, the bass player and I played in a band called the English Work Standard, and there was this kid named Chase, and he's a few years younger. He's like 5 years younger than us. So at that time, I was like 22, and he would have been like 16 or 17 or something like that. So I was 21, 22, and he was 16 or 17. And he was a fan of the English Work Standard, but we had broken up, and his like high school band had opened for us like at our local shows and stuff. And we used to talk on AOL, AIM,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
AOL Instant Messenger, So he was just like like a little like fan dude, and really nice kid and super funny and cool. And we were chatting on there, and I was just like a broke 20 something year old guy, and we're talking. He's like, hey, my friend gets like free passes to Disneyland. Do you want to go? And I don't any money to do anything. Like I can't even, so I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't really know this guy, but whatever. And so he picks me up in his mom's minivan in Long Beach, and then we drive to Disneyland. And I'm a degenerate 21, 22-year old, and I'm like, hey, let's get some beers before we go in.
Yeah. You
And this was kind of, I don't know if you had them in Australia. I think you guys have better sense, but
about to say
this
Four
was the
Loco?
era.
Are you about to say Four Loco?
Yeah, I am
Oh
about to
my
say Four
God.
Loko.
Oh
So
my.
they had just come out. They were
The
new, and I was like,
original formulation.
yeah, 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 yeah. So they were new, and I was like, these things are really great. And this is a 16-year-old kid I'm with, by the way,
Oh
in
my
his in
God.
his in his parents' minivan with a couple of his friends who are all kids. I'm just like this degenerate adult that's like, I don't know, yeah, sure. I
Ready
go
to buy
buy
Four Locos.
buy a bunch of Four Locos for all of us.
Ah.
And so we're just posted up outside Disneyland in his minivan listening to music, and I've got like five or six Four Locos, and we're just pounding these like energy drink malt liquors and smoking. He's rolling joints, like,
Ah.
and we're just smoking a bunch of weed and drinking these Four Locos, and then also this is like 11 in the morning, by the way. And but
Perfect.
I don't really know this kid either, by the way. I don't know this guy. I'm just here for a free trip to Disneyland. I'm like, I have nothing happening in my life. This is fine. So we go in, but we're just hitting it off like great. We're talking music, and we have a ton in common, and we're just partying, during the day or whatever. So we're cruising around Disneyland, going on rides, and just turning up, eating funnel cake, and um, yeah, kind of. I think by 2 p.m. I was like, we got to start a band. Like I can just see it. Like,
Yeah.
and here we are, almost 20 years later, still bandmates, and still kind of doing the same thing. Honestly, there's no Four Loko became illegal, but they
Yeah.
got we got like hazy IPAs now, so and just drink a Red Bull, and it's kind of the same thing. So.
Yeah.
Oh, well, man, 20 years later, as you said, you're coming back down here. 2017 was the last time you guys did back down in Australia. So, you looking forward to coming back?
Oh, absolutely. I can't believe it's been that long. Yeah, I can't wait. I love Australia so much. One of my favorite shows we've ever played was in Melbourne at the Gasometer, the Gasso. I
Oh
don't know if
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what that
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We played
Gasso, mate.
there. Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows we ever played. It was just, we were kind of on fire, and it was just a really chaotic, amazing show. Great crowd and just perfect room. Yeah, that's one of my favorite shows of all time.
And you played with the Smith Street Band back then as well, and they've drifted away a little bit. We haven't really heard much from those guys in the last couple of years. They're still touring, but I mean, they found themselves in a little bit of a spot a couple of years ago, but they would have been pretty cool to tour with at the time.
Yeah, I don't think that was with them. I think we might have been that. Well, I don't know what tour that was. That might have been like with them, but that was they didn't play that show. That was like
Right.
an off show. But yeah, they brought us over I think twice. And we had a great time touring with them. They were really good to us, and those were awesome shows.
I wanted to ask you as well. I was checking out some footage of you guys playing recently, just like some festival stuff and bits and pieces, and I caught you wearing a Royal Headache shirt at I can't remember what festival it was. It might have been somewhere over in I think it might have been a US show, but a Royal Headache shirt, which is a prized piece of memorabilia for us over here in Australia. What's the connection with Royal Headache? Did you guys ever see them, play with them? I mean, they're like one of those sort of folklory punk bands over here.
Oh, I love that band. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
once their first record came out, and it was instant classic. I was like, this
Mm.
is it made me mad how good it was. I was just like, God damn it, like this. It seems so like effortless. It kind of reminds me of one of those bands where you're just like, this is clearly a genius who can write these type of songs all day. Like every idea they have is just it sounds like a timeless song. And I absolutely just loved that first record. And we were supposed to play with them in LA at the Blue Star Cafe. We were on the bill, there's a flyer for it and everything, but
Ah,
they had some visa issues.
yeah.
So the show got rescheduled and we were on tour. The show did happen, and but we didn't end up playing it. Um, but I saw them a bunch of times when they would come over to LA, and I've watched a million YouTube videos. There's like one song that I'm really, really obsessed with, and it just came out on that live record. But for the longest time,
Yeah.
there was,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, what's that song called? The
I can't think. No. It's like halfway down the album, and it's just like only there on that live record. And they're like, but they reference it and they say this is already super weird. So like, let's just do this. You know,
Yes,
I don't know what was going on that night, but it was obviously
yeah.
something was happening.
How amazing is that song? To
Yeah.
think that there's not a studio recording of that tune is just drives me insane.
Yeah.
But that live version is awesome though, so I'll live with that.
Yeah. Well, it's
We
just
got to we got we got to figure out what that song's called though really quick. It's called
yeah. I'll be able to pull it up here
So
on
Low. It's called So Low.
solo. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just feel so low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
the yeah, just like the random, and I guess I kind of wanted to bring it back to you guys because Royal Headache got, I guess, the sound and the feeling of them had the like they threw in like Motown and they covered like some really strange songs like Teardrops and stuff, for instance, and whatever.
Hmm.
But I think that like for you guys, I mean, it's so hard to nail you guys down to one sound. I mean, like I don't know what you guys describe yourselves as, whether it's punk or I don't know, like any variant of that. But you listen to, for instance, like your newest album, which is obviously in many parts like a tribute to Sublime with the name and all that kind of stuff. But there's elements of like pure pop punk in there. And then you've got like Never Be
Hmm.
the Same Again, which is like, skate punk banger. Could be on a Cloud Nothings record or something like that. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's
Totally.
super sick, super broad. Like I don't know, where do you guys find yourself and like what's your inspiration now? Like what are you listening to and how do you keep writing?
Um, you know, I think a lot of my favorite bands manage to kind of blend like a few things and create something kind of fresh with it. So like a good example would be like let's just take a band everybody knows, like Oasis, right?
Mm,
It's not that complicated. Like they're just the Sex Pistols and the Beatles,
yeah.
Oasis. Like and it's just like that just that one and one makes three. It can be so special.
Yeah.
So for us, I think it's it's kind of like just taking maybe like in the beginning, especially my what I was hoping to try to do was something like Blink-182 and Guided by Voices, and try to have the where do those things like where does the Venn diagram happen? Can you kind of like get those to overlay and create like a new color?
Mm,
And just like or any kind of different like Descendants, but like Belle and Sebastian, like where can we kind of get this like where can we sneak some indie rock into this but just the ultimately like cathartic, satisfying pop punk, emo tinged pop punk. Like, Jimmy Eat World is a band that does that really well. It's kind of
Yeah.
like they're a pop punk band or an emo band or whatever, but there's like these really overt power pop and indie rock things they're pulling from, So
Especially with the hits. Like the hits have that really heavily tinged like power pop stuff like behind them.
uh,
And like all the stuff that kind of fills up the rest of the album kind of gives you the feels, you know. And I think that's
sure.
what you guys do so well. And going back and just like binging like your back catalog, which doesn't take as long as it does for some other bands given your album length.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, man, it's such a wall to wall emotional ride because you have songs that really just like target you emotionally, and then you've just got songs that make you feel good and just make you go, damn, I wish I was like jumping on top of a crowd of people right now and just like rocking because it's just energy versus emotion, I think, is like you guys balance it so well. And I think
Yeah.
that's the reason why people keep coming back.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely think the band kind of started because my friends started a house that did shows, and a lot of the shows they were booking were like these more kind of art, like noise projects or like weird kind of low-key folk type things that were like it was pretty boring, honestly. And then like afterwards there would be a party at the house and somebody would put on like Saves the Day and
Nice.
everybody would freak out and like everyone would be drunk and like singing along and hugging and like I was like, why don't we have a band? Like, why don't we get bands like this to play the house? And I was like, well, I just have to make one because like these bands, this was like kind of the end of like Warped Tour and stuff. So, you know, the stuff we were like definitely the stuff we were listening to was more like I guess like Royal Headache or kind of like the blog era or to early 2010s like like the Men or whatever like
Mm.
just that kind of stuff but I did we all kind of really responded emotionally to like when the end of the night 2 in the morning someone puts on Saves the Day everyone flips out and I was kind of like well there's something to this we all love this and there's a way to kind of like bring this more, I guess, kind of like highbrow stuff that we all like, but still have that like immediacy and the stuff that makes you just want exactly like pile on and sing along and just kind of like get, the anthemic quality or just the like bringing together quality I really like about pop punk and I really like about, the greats that do it. Like there's a lot of mediocre pop punk, but there's a lot of mediocre indie rock. There's a lot of mediocre everything. So
Mm. Yeah, it's
um the
it's a
the
vulnerable.
the yeah, exactly. It's very vulnerable and I think a lot of great art and great music is most of it actually is. So yeah, that was the goal. Just to kind of like can we sneak in elements of that to kind of set ourselves apart and do something a little different.
I wanted to clear up one thing on your Wikipedia page. There's a stance about you guys that it says that you have a stance against like stage diving and crowd surfing and stuff like that. But looking at some of your recent like concert footage, I mean, like it's pretty wild, man. Like I'm trying to get
Yeah, yeah.
what people can expect. And there was another anecdote that came from like a video gaming conference where you guys played like not that long ago, and it seemed like it got shut down at the end. Of course,
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that sounded like a wild time. I couldn't find any footage of that though. And that sounded like, you've had some great responses by police in your time in your personal life, but it sounds like a really average police response there. So that was, yeah.
So so I can sum all that up really quickly. So when our first record came out on a hardcore label called 6131,
Mhm, mhm.
and it was like um a lot of our first fans were just like hardcore kids. It's kind of like Title Fight, like that kind of world. So
Yep.
well, Title Fight aren't a hardcore band, but like you know what I mean, like just
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
that kind of or like early 2000s hardcore kid into pop punk. So a lot of our early shows were like really crazy, like people diving off of like balconies and just really really intense, and it was amazing. It was really really cool because you feel like people are responding, to your music in this really intense way, and it's really fun. But as we started to get a little more popular, there was just this really uncomfortable moment where we had like younger fans, and it was a lot of younger women from from Tumblr, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Like
have heard that.
we got popular there. And so like we'd have like 15-year-old girls in the crowd and they would come to the front row because they were mega fans and they knew every word to every song. And then you would just have some dude in like a man overboard tank top in Texas. You know what I mean? And he would just like head walk on these like young, you know, he and like it's to Joyce Manor. You know what I mean? It's not like a it's this shit isn't like standard tuning. We're playing like open chords and stuff. Like it's not super, you know, he's not like a terror show or, you
Yeah.
know, whatever. Like
There's no halftime
so
breakdown. There's no like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not inciting a wall of death, you know?
right, exactly. So when that first happened to our music, we were like, whoa, this is crazy. Like people are reacting, period. This is awesome. So I feel like we did create a weird situation where at first we were like kind of encouraging it, but then once the crowd became a little more diverse, it was just people were leaving in an ambulance every night
Yeah.
because it was just not everybody was on the same page. And it's really hard to draw these kind of like soft lines with this kind of thing to be like, hey guys, like go super crazy, but don't hurt anybody. So it was just a really uncomfortable and awkward time because I really didn't like seeing people get super hurt at our show. And
Mm.
honestly, I didn't want to see somebody die.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
it kind of looked like that was where this was going, you know? And then recently you had, I forget what band it was. It might have been an Australian band. They played in Buffalo and someone got paralyzed for
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
What's that band called?
I can't remember who that was. It was I think it was like a semi
Some,
pop punk hardcore
yeah,
or something from yeah, yeah. And that was a huge deal. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and I'm not kind of being like trying to be flippant about it, but like that could have been me, you know.
Mm.
And I felt it. I felt it in the room. I was like, people are leaving in an ambulance every night,
Mm.
and I was just like, I kind of felt like responsible in a weird way. So it put me in a really uncomfortable position. And of course, with the internet, people just ran with it like, oh, this band hates stage diving or they hate moshing. But I was just put in a really weird position. But I absolutely do not hate crazy shows. And I love that shit. Like
Yeah.
I grew up going to shows like that. I live for it. But it's just like read the room, you know, but it's
Yeah.
hard to ask people to do that because people can't, you know, or whatever, they won't. So um yeah.
Let's clear it up.
A few psychos like ruined it kind of for everybody, sort
Yeah.
of. You know,
As the
they didn't, yeah, so
As they
as
always do.
always, right?
Yeah.
As they always do.
All right.
So
Well, you might need to enjoy yourself responsibly, but still have a good time in the Wonder Years tour that's coming down very shortly. 27th of March is the first gig down here. Tickets available through Destroy All Lines. Barry, mate, thanks so much for joining us, and we can't wait to have you down under.
yeah, thanks for having the chat. I can't wait.
Hey man.
See you
Again,
dudes.
thank you so much. We're getting the timeout, but huge fan, man, and keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing. So yeah.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
See you
time back
soon.
down under.
Will, peace.